This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Jambo, jambo. Welcome in the Masai Mara of Kenya. We have a very beautiful sunrise this morning. My name is Tim, and I welcome on board to your very own safari live from the African wilderness. Good morning, everyone. Jambo jambo from this part of the Masai Mara. We have a very beautiful sunrise. My name is Tim, and behind camera we have Big James. It's a very nice, chilly morning, 16 degrees Celsius, about 62 degrees Fahrenheit. We're just looking at this very nice sunrise, and as usual, the birds are chirping, welcoming us to this very nice place. I'm headed off towards the River Pride area, and I hope I'll find them this morning. Remember, we're coming to you live. Send us your comment and question at #WildEarth. For the YouTube comment section at FC. Our young viewers, kids question at FC, at wildearth.tv rather. Please send us your question at www.wildearth.tv. wildearth.tv. Just listen to that sound this morning. Lots of birds chirping. And sometimes when you listen to that, you might even hear lions, even hyenas sometimes. I can hear an elephant rumble up in the distance. MJ, beautiful as always. I can agree with you. This is magical. We haven't seen the River Pride for a little while, and I'll be heading to where we normally find them. But if not, I'll be looking over for something else as I take you over to another live location.
So from the buffalo to the lions, from the lions to the buffalo, eternal enemies, so they say. Nice and peaceful at the moment, no lions around, which is great. Very peaceful morning here at Ndlovu Dam, nice and still, like glass, with the Egyptian goose family just looking after their goslings, not so far from the buffaloes. Everyone's happy. There are still 6, thank goodness. Everyone's happy. Look at those camouflaged little chicks. Oh, I wonder what else is going to happen today. It's such a nice way to start when you've animals right outside the camp. It makes life so much easier and so much happier as well. Hi everyone, my name is Mike, behind the camera is BK, and you've joined us at Eco Training's Pride Lands Conservancy, where we are also enjoying not so much of a sunrise, because as you can see it's quite cloudy, but nice, peaceful, calm weather. It's not hardly a breeze stirring at all. So it's really, really nice to be out this morning. Sound will travel nice and far on these cool mornings. Cool and still. It's interesting. I love watching the chicks. They're already starting to forage on their own. Look at that. From the moment they're born, they can already start catching things. The instinct is strong to go and find their own food. See them pecking around in the ground, looking for any little insects and grass shoots and seeds. They basically eat a whole variety of things. Also glad to see they're both there. See one adult feeding and then one patrolling around. And they're very aggressive at defending their youngsters. If anything should try and attack, especially a bird of prey of some sort, you'll find the Egyptian geese will mantle over their chicks. The chicks will all run underneath one of the adults. The adults will open their wings up to make themselves seem much larger. And that'll be a way of protecting and intimidating. Oh, look at them. Come on, you can make it. Engage 4x4. Good job. Uh-oh, one's left behind. Oh, never mind. Very quick. And that's what they'll do. They'll dash to cover if they feel threatened. Well, goodbye. We'll see you a bit later. They seem to go back and forth from behind that bush over there. I'm sure they've got that's where the nest was. The buffalo's starting to stir now. See a few individuals getting up and moving about. I don't think they're going to go very far. It's such a nice cool day. There's really no reason for them to rush off.
Jambo Jambo, welcome to my side of the world. And I have elephant, mother and young, very isolated from everybody else. Nobody is close to them. And this is the reason I stopped to investigate a little bit more and try to figure out exactly what is the situation, because it's not normal to see mother and young just by themselves. Jumbo, my name is Isaac, and on camera we have Bungei. This morning we are on a mission to find some cats. It's been very difficult, but we are not relenting. The weather is just beautiful. We had lots and lots of rain. It's very wet. It's very green. You know, most grazers are loving it, but the cats are not really enjoying. You know, they don't love water very much like the ones we have at home. They try not to touch water, but situation have, forces them. This mother elephant, for some reason, is all by herself. I think she wanted some privacy with her son. He looks like a young male, and that's why they're all by themselves out in the open. They've been joined by a cattle egret who is taking advantage of what they are disturbing. But a long ways out there, there is a bigger herd of, these guys, elephants. So I think they could be following this mother, but for some reason she got separated. Sometimes it's really hard to explain why an elephant with her young are all by themselves, because even if they're spooked, they can communicate and so they can locate each other. But to be out in the open like this, sometimes we just have to let that question pass, because she is not intimidated by any creature out here. And there's nobody who walks on foot. So maybe she just wanted to be lazy and remain behind with her calf. You can tell for security reasons they're very tightly bonded together, because still they can be harassed by a big pack of wild dogs, or a clan of a hyena, or a pride of lions can try to take the young one. This time of the year, they are having fun. They're having a very good time, elephants, because what they eat is in plenty. Plenty of grass, plenty of leaves. It's just beautiful for them. It's just what nature really wants them to have. So it's super cool. In Africa, they say that we have another species of elephant called the forest elephant, and it's found in the forests of Congo. Remember, the River Congo is one of the longest rivers we have, and in between that area, there is a very thick forest full of gorillas and other critters. Apart from that, we have the forest elephant. They call it, but I don't believe it's a different species. They're still doing some studies. I've never seen it, but I think it's still, the same kind of elephant. I have Mr. Warden wanting to cross, so I have to give way, let him go to work. Yes, that is our warden. He's in charge of looking after the endangered species, so he's out to work. I'm going to continue on, and let's take you to another live location.
We are very, very lucky again. This morning we've come to the den, and our Juma clan is out and about. All 5 cubs are here. Hearts too, Ribbons too, and Corky's little one is having a bit of a suckle this morning also. Are you excited? Are you so happy? I'm so happy. Hi everyone, it's me, Trishala. I've got Hert on camera with me this wonderful morning in Juma Game Reserve. It's 31 degrees Celsius, 70 degrees Fahrenheit, which means I'm going to have to check out my jacket, not take my jack out. But what I will do with the jack of my earpiece is keep it very, very safe, so that we don't have to anger our tech team again. Here's Corky, and that little one is having a suckle. How peaceful. So sweet. Now, yesterday when we were here in the morning, We didn't have ribbons to Shumbulu and Ngwazi. We didn't have them here.
Cross into Birchwood from Central Road.
Excuse my game drive radio there. And now we have all 5. Which is really nice because as they get older, as we discussed yesterday, these types of sightings, which is really a privilege at the moment, these types of sightings will disappear because they will start moving a lot. Dens are just used when cubs are little. Luckily, I think we still have a little while to go, especially with Corky's little one. I think they might have just woken up. They look a little bit groggy, not full of beans. Or at least not just yet. They've started to use the southern entrance to the den. That's that one there. And the tunnels are connected underground, and they can actually use the northern-facing entrance and come out in the southern-facing one. Too cute. Well, I know that you're as excited as I am. We haven't seen them for a few days. It's nice to catch up with them and have a bit of den time. So I'm going to stay here and see who else comes to visit.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to and Beyond Pinda, where we have managed to find a dove. But it's quite an interesting looking dove. That long tail. My name is Grant, and behind the camera this morning we have Craig, and we've come out this morning to some really nice grassy open areas, but also with some thickets in between. And at the moment we were just passing from one open area to the next through some thick sickle bush thickets, and we spotted these doves on the road, but it seems like I can't see it anymore. So it was one that had a really long tail. The rest of the body was pretty dove-like. But I think they've flown off. But I'm sure you guys did get a look in the beginning. But I'll show you in the book what it was. So it had a slightly longer tail than a normal dove. And so it wasn't a macro dove with that really, really long tail. The one that we did see was the female. The male's got a black face with that bright, well, it looks really bright in real life, orange sort of bill. So Craig and I have investigated this morning a giraffe carcass, but there was no one feeding on it, or no predators there feeding on it, and it was really smelly, so we couldn't stick around for too long. But for now, yeah, I think Craig and I are going to carry on, and we'll see what else we can find for you this morning.
Welcome back to the Mara, where we've not left the sunrise spot, where we have about 5 ostriches, 4 females and 1 male. The male is actually walking up in the front, and the females, I can see they're trying to follow him, but it seems like he's walking in a very fast pace. Around here, we always see ostriches mating during the month of end of November and December, but because of geographical changes and range, we'll find that there are places where ostriches will mate in April, May. The male is territorial, and he actually has to come to a place where he'll defend a few females and make sure that no other male intruder will come closer to them. He will be making a boom sound which attracts most of the females, and then when they get closer to where he is, he always performs a mating dance or a courtship dance where the females will be attracted by him and come and mate. Interesting thing is that even though there are several females here, there's one that takes the role of the leader. We call her the alpha female. So whenever they come to a place where they lay their eggs, she will be the one sitting on the eggs for incubation, being helped obviously by the male. And during that time, they always make sure that she has her eggs at the center of the clutch to protect hers, because in future when they hatch, she has the surety that those chicks will be hers and the rest will be placed on the edge. We rarely see them drinking because look at what they're doing. They're just grazing, feeding on grass, sometimes leaves. Occasionally they can take snakes, rodents, locusts. And the reason why they don't drink is because whatever they eat adds water into their body. They also have what we call metabolic water, which they retain during their daily lives. They're also known to reduce or to lose weight to about 25% dehydration to keep them surviving. Sasikasi, thank you for your question. A fully grown male can weigh to about 180, 160 kilos because they're always bigger than the females. The females sometimes can weigh to about 120 or sometimes even 200. I've seen them going, especially in the farms, they can get too big. Seems they are walking so fast. It's a nice morning where they are looking for forage. So I'll leave them to carry on as I take on to find something else. So I'm going to take you over to another live location.
It is a lovely morning. And what we found is a little yellow-billed oxpecker, which has arrived on the scene a few moments ago with a friend and is now helping to give this buffalo a pedicure. Well, it's disappeared now. But what's interesting is that it's a very rare bird to see in this area. We certainly don't see them often, the yellow-billed oxpeckers, but they are very closely associated with buffalo. In the northern parts of the Kruger National Park, you will find them a lot more frequently. But in these southern parts where there's been a lot of cattle farming and other types of farming practices, they've become quite scarce. And I think that's to do with the use of pesticides in the 60s and earlier. Heavily affected by the pesticides. The red-billed oxpecker seemed to have been affected a bit less. And I think that's to do with the feeding method or the diet of those two birds. So there's lots of red-billed oxpeckers. Those ones flying there are red-billed oxpeckers. They're very common. You see them almost everywhere. Yellow-billed, much less so. As you can imagine, the difference is that the yellow-billed has a bit of yellow at the base of its bill, the red tip, whereas the red-billed oxpecker is all red. performing a very vital function, keeping these buffalo nice and clean. And as you can see, the buffalo are in a supremely relaxed mode. Heads down, resting on each other in a tight clump, partly keeping warm, although I wouldn't call it cold, and partly also because it's easier to defend each other when they're in a tight group like this. Minamu, that's a good question, and it's because of the water. And also the fact that Pride Lands has been separated from the Greater Kruger, or the Kruger National Park, for a long time, up until about 3 years ago, which means that the grazing in this area, the grasses, are of a much higher quality and standard because they've been relatively protected. Now, there were lots of other animals here before it was open to the Kruger, lots of plains game, things like kudu and impala and nyala, that kind of thing. So there was grazing happening, but there wasn't the large large animals like buffaloes, I think. I can't be sure about that. So the grass grew without being overgrazed, without being trodden down, and so it's much thicker and of a higher quality. And so that's why a lot of animals are spending a lot of time here. Not only that, but also the water. There's plenty of water here at Pride Lands, which means that animals who are relatively dependent on water, like these buffalo, can find plenty of food, shade, and water, which can satisfy all the needs that they need. All the needs that they need. Oh, terrible sentence construction. Can satisfy all their needs, and then they can focus on other things like mating, fighting, defending themselves from predators, all those things. So Minamu, that is why. We've got an abundance of good grazing, an abundance of water. It's also why we have lots of elephants here. And we saw our first water buck. Well, I saw my first water buck here on Pride Lands yesterday or day before at this very waterhole. I haven't seen them at all in the over the year that I've been here. Never seen a water buck on Pride Lands before, so that was pretty exciting. I've never understood why there were no water buck, because there's plenty of water and they are very closely associated, and there's plenty of food for them. They are grazers. So hopefully this one female that's arrived will entice other waterbuck to arrive. They don't usually occur in as big herds as this buffaloes, but I've seen them in the right environments, many of them all together. It's a nice way to look at the buffaloes when they lie down like this. You can really see there's a young male at the back who's just raised his head. You can see his nice big boss, still very smooth, and then females in front of him, much more slender horns. That one's got a big clump of mud in her horns. Do you see that? That is something that they do to try and churn up the mud so that they can mud wallow a bit easier. But in the case of male buffaloes and other male antelope, there's an idea that perhaps by stuffing mud onto their horns like that, it might make them seem bigger and more intimidating to rivals. Certainly seems the case, because you'll often see kudus and nyala jamming their horns into the mud. And these are animals that don't mud wallow, but they'll jam their horns into the mud and dig it all up and then strut around with mud-covered horns. Often with nyala doing that slow-legged ballet that they do to decide who's more powerful. You see that one there is busy chewing. And that is chewing the cud. It's regurgitated food from one of its stomachs, and it's re-chewing it to extract the maximum amount of nutrition.
Everyone here has got a bit more juice. I think they're woken up a little bit. Something's gotten their attention. They've been terribly amusing to watch. Almost embarrassingly so. I think, and this is totally just a thought of mine, I think they're waiting for Corky's little girl to stop suckling. She seems to be kind of like the sparkle. And then there'll be some really good rough and tumble play. one of Heart's little ones mistakenly tripped on a hole and took a tumble. Oh, now we're going to investigate what's going on there. Grown so much. Seeing ribbons too is really nice too, because they're getting really shaggy, especially Shimbulu. He's slightly darker. He's gotten very, very shaggy. Now he's coming to join Heart's one. If you're struggling to remember who is who, this one is Shimbulu. Now you see how dark his coat is. And because he's really shaggy, the spots have kind of melted into each other. Hi, Clown Sharon. You'd like to know what happens to the cubs if the matriarch mum is overthrown. Well, that's what happened. Oh, there we go. Look at that. That's what happened with Corky previously. She had Plonk, her little son, who was kind of, had this prince status. And then when she got overthrown, she and Plonk were on their own for a substantial amount of time before she came back into the clan. And when she rejoined, she was still part of the clan, but came back to associate with the others. So she spent a lot of time on her own with her cub. So the cub would be taken with Mum. Hello, Fluffball. There are no wires for you to chew. Nothing. I've kept them all, hidden them all away from you. So the cub would go with Mum, but that also means that their survival, not just the cub, but that of Mum as well, can be reduced. That being said, Corky's son Plonk has not been seen and has not survived, almost definitely not survived. But those cubs are still part of the clan. Wow, Viet, you'd like to know what is the bite force of these hyena cubs at this age? Definitely not more than 1,000 psi. Adults have a really, really strong bite force, over 1,000 psi. But they all actually have quite a weak bite force at this age. And that's because there's a couple things with the development of the hyena that's important. Firstly, they have a really big, heavy skull, strong muscles around the jaws, and all of that takes a long time to develop. That's why hyenas will be weaned at a very late age compared to other carnivores. Very, very late age, like maybe even up to 1.5 years. They can still suckle. More common is about 15 months that they're weaned at. But that is a long time. And the reason that is so is because they have to develop these strong muscles, strong, heavy skull, in order to produce that bite force. So comparatively to the adults, it would be quite weak. Oh, I'm very, very interested in our vehicle, as usual. Aren't you? I'm busy watching one at my feet and another one comes from underneath the vehicle. Hey. Jack's my name. You would like to know if I wish I could pet them? Well, the short answer is yes, because I'm a human and they're fluffy, but luckily I'm not a silly human. At least, I think so. But they are very, very, very cute. Hey, This one's trying to jump up on its hind legs and look at me. Nope. Going back to the question we had earlier about, just excuse the back of our vehicle there, and all around. When talking about clan matriarchs being overthrown, or really anybody being ousted from the clan, or some sort of problem happening, some sort of altercation, those cubs are still part of this clan. A good example of that is Pretty. Pretty was kind of had a particularly strong relationship with Corky when Corky was matriarch. And I say relationship in the sense of the hyena relationship. They have a bond and sort of have a coalition, a strategy together. They trust one another. So Pretty and Corky at that time were quite close, and they had cubs around the same age. Pretty, we haven't seen in a very, very long time, also probably has not survived. But Swazi and Ndebele are her two cubs, and they're still part of this clan and prominent members of this clan. So just because something has happened to their mother doesn't mean that they're not going to survive, or that there will be lonely hyenas that won't find a home. Ooh. And then going back to the bite force question, all of this practice, this is going to help to strengthen those muscles. Going to help them to figure out, where does it really hurt when I bite my peer here. So important, all this play, for them to develop social skills as well as develop the actual strength in their jaws and body.
I always like and enjoy watching hyenas. Their behavior is very dynamic. Now here, our mission to go find the river pride has been cancelled or stopped, because look at what's just in front of us. The roads have been submerged because the rain last night. The water running so fast. There was lots of rain last night, and over the forest edge is where we always find Romy, and this area is where we find the river pride. So I think maybe I'll be coming later on, maybe in the afternoon, to check on if the water level will be going down because of the rains. So this is what we normally experience during November towards December. So these rains can carry on for about 5 weeks. We call it the short rains, and our long rains are in April, towards the end of February through May. But now we have lots of activity happening, because we see lots of elephants coming towards the marsh, enjoying the water, and lots of plains game have been distributed or dispersed because there's nice and so much forage for them. Just listen to the sound of the water running towards the river.
Well, looks like I have a pair of grey-crested crane, and it's true, I have them. This pair doesn't seem to have any young ones or chicks with them, which is very unusual for this time of the year. A lot of pairs that we've been seeing have chicks that are almost adults. It is hard to pass this bird every time I drive past it because of its beauty and the interesting crest. You know, one day I want to, I don't know when, but to feel those, you know, hairs, those feathers on the crest, feel how rough they are, because I sometimes look at them and wonder how tough are they to be able, you know, to stand straight like that. Are they tough like pins or thorns? Because it's amazing, you know, to have them nicely done like that. Yeah, I don't know if you get what I mean, but it's really amazing. So I always have to stop to these birds. They are enjoying a lot of different grasses here, because mostly that is what consists of their diet. Grass seeds, insects, small reptiles, but about maybe 70% is basically a lot of, you know, grass seeds. They're listening at me, spending a lot of their time on the ground, you know, to feed, but to get away, they can fly. They can fly, but they're not fond of flying. They will take a flight, maybe 400 meters and land, but if need be, they can fly long distances in search of water, because they're always found not far from a, you know, water body. Yes, and they are found here in East Africa, stretching all the way down to Tanzania. I don't know about the other countries further down, but yes, they are found around these areas. Nesting, they nest close to water. They can lay up to 4 chicks that are actually hatched, and they're always on the move immediately, unlike other eggs that sit on the Tyler, what is the red pull that hangs there? I cannot tell you exactly the use, but it's just a wattle that hangs there. And maybe one of my fellow guides can tell me, but just there, it's for beauty, I think. But I don't really have, you know, the know-how, you know, to tell you exactly what it is for. Yeah, these birds spend, you know, a lot of their time foraging, like what they're doing right now. For security reasons, they'll always raise their heads up high to look at distances far away, because they have amazing eyesight. They're able to detect a jackal, a hyena, a leopard, or a lion. But their main predator is, the eggs are taken by monitor lizards and pythons. Here, they're almost immune to most things. It's only by bad luck, but also predators don't really go for them because they're too small. They would be only a snack. They weigh up to around, a fully grown one, maybe around 4 kilos. So they're not that heavy. They're protected in Uganda, mind you, because it's a national bird of Uganda. And one thing that I always have to remind you is, you wonder how they pair for life and how they find each other. After having their chicks for almost 5 months, I don't know who calls the meeting, but they always find each other in one location, and you can find up to 150 to 200 of them in a place. And over there's always a song and dance. It's so beautiful, you know, to see, because for males to impress females, they always have this dance that is so unique, where they spread their wings and they jump up and down. It's like a Maasai warrior. And every now and then, one will do a 350 degrees, in the air with its wings open. And I think that is the final dance they do, and the females are really impressed. They stay there for almost up to 3-4 hours, but while they're ready to fly out, everybody flies with a partner. And I think it's a mass wedding. That's how I'd put it. So it's a bird I can never drive past. It's so beautiful. And I'm glad, we always see them, always here, on the roads, and we have more and more of them. I'm going to leave this beautiful pair to enjoy their grass. And let's take you somewhere else.
Good morning, everyone. It is a stunning morning here in Tswalu Kalahari. We are all very happy. We had some good rain last night. We got soaked on the drive yesterday afternoon, by the way, myself and David, which was great fun. It's always good to have that. But then this morning, because of all the rain during the evening, as I was driving towards where David and I were supposed to meet, we saw an aardvark. Well, I saw an aardvark. Which was quite late for them to still be up. So with that being the case, we decided to come to this particular area and see if the pangolins are not still out. See if we can maybe get some pangolin activity, or, maybe an aardvark if we're lucky. However, the main focus is pangolin. We are also in the area where we left the lions yesterday afternoon. So, the tracks for the lions before the storm hit us. So because of that, we will be looking for them as well. By the way, guys, my name is MAURITZ. Behind the camera, we've got David. So yeah, that's the mission for this morning. But as you can see, just a beautiful morning. Have a look at that sunrise. It is already a little bit higher, which is great for us because then you can see the shadows in the tracks a little bit easier. So pick up those pangolin tracks or, lion tracks or whichever tracks there is to find. So yeah, that's the mission for this morning. We might even bump into a brown hyena that's on his way back from maybe a carcass or something like that. That would be epic. However, my personal goal for this morning would be to find that pangolin. That would be just great. So as soon as we pick up on some tracks, guys, or anything like that, hopefully the animal, but if we do pick up on some tracks, we're going to let you know. But for the meantime, we're going to send you somewhere else. It's lovely to have you with us.
I think that would be awesome. And best of luck. Yeah, everybody's still up to no good, but definitely good as well. So hard to say that they're naughty or anything like that because they're just being them. But for us, it's kind of like the cute, naughty, playful manner about the way we speak and the way we speak about them. It just naturally comes out because they're little and they're cute. Can you hear that? Chewing away again, as we spoke about the bite force, making sure that all of those muscles are really well practiced. I think that we're all pretty good at being able to tell ribbons two apart. Lighter one there. Remember, that's Ngwazi. Darker, fluffier one where the spot's a little bit indistinct. That's Shimbulu. And let's try and do the same for hearts too. Now this one, its spots are a little bit more distinct than the spots of this one. And especially around the tail, this little one's spots that go from where the tail joins the base of the tail, where it joins the back. The spots are kind of blotchy. But the other cub that has a more distinct spots, that was biting on that bit of branch, the spots that lead from that animal's base of that animal's tail are very distinct, kind of like a runway, and goes from the tail towards the middle of the back. It's another way to just remember who's who. I need to remember what the sexes are. I remember before I had left, when there was a male and a female. Well, I need to know which one is which. That's always a good idea, just so that you can keep track. And especially be able to tell, oh, this one's a little bit more dominant over that one, or whatever. And can you see the runway type of spots on the back of that one? Jane, you'd like to know if the hyena mums excavate the den by digging. Initially they will, when they're searching for a den. They'll find an existing hole, but the hole might not be appropriate. So they won't excavate through the den, because then they won't be able to tunnel. The whole point of having a den is that large predators cannot go into it, which includes the adult hyenas. So what they will do, and the extent of the excavation, is that they will find a den entrance, or an entrance to the termite mound, and then dig to widen it. Sorry, my cap there. Dig to widen it, or adjust it however they like. Then they will plop their behind into the den, kind of half in, half out. And you can see there's a nice little kind of veranda or patio ledge type thing, so they can sit comfortably, and then they pop their bottom in there and they give birth into the den. Then for that time, whatever tunnel is already present is fine for the youngster. But at this age, and I suspect that these two entrances to this den was not always linked, because when we first started they couldn't move through here when they first started using this den. But as the cubs grow, they will excavate on their own. So the adult does not go in and excavate, but older cubs will excavate. Corky's little one is still suckling very, very peacefully on that side. Shimbulu is catching a nap, but these three are not ready to do that. There, so look at the cub in the middle. It's got two very distinct stripes. No, they're not going to let me show you, are they? Nope, not happening. I'll have to choose a better time. There we go. There, two very distinct stripes going up from where the tail attaches to the back, right to the middle of the back, or just before that. Okay, well, of course we're going to stick around because they are having so much fun, and I don't want to miss it.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to And Beyond Ngala. We have just found this beautiful little black-backed jackal, and it's actually been trotting around a little bit, and it's just settled down on the top of a termite mound, actually. And there's some wildebeest in the background and some impalas. My name is Tessa, and I'm going to be your guide for today on safari at And Beyond Ngala. Behind the camera, we have Sebastian. And actually we came to this area because we're hot on the tracks of a pack of wild dogs. So we actually stopped to look at this jackal because it looked like it had heard something that maybe it was going to. So it's actually relaxing at the moment, and it's probably nice and warm on top of that termite mound for its stomach. But we've been watching for any signs of it hearing maybe the wild dogs. We did have some hyenas as well, and you can see how the ears are flicking around. So it's definitely hearing things that we can't. It's got much better hearing than us. And the tracks of the wild dogs are actually not far from here, so we know that we're in a very nice clearing. And so things like the impalas and wildebeest actually like to sleep here, so this is a really good place for the wild dogs to be. And the way that jackal is actually looking now, off towards the right there, that's actually where we had some hyenas that looked like they were on a bit of a mission. Maybe they can smell or hear the wild dogs. So that's actually where we're going to go and have a look now. We have actually got Nikki, one of our other guides, helping us in the area. He also wants to see the wild dogs. But it's just incredible because our weather today is stunning. It's nice and overcast, it's cool, and so it is perfect for predators to be moving around. Look at how it's flicking its ears around listening. So I don't know where this one's partner is. Normally they are territorial and there would be two together in this area. But maybe they've just split up a little bit trying to listen out for those wild dogs as well. But I love the pointed fox face. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to carry on down the road, see if we can go back to where those hyenas were, and hopefully we might find some fresher tracks of the wild dogs.
So welcome back to the Mara, where at least our mission has been paid off. We have seen two of the river pride lionesses. It seems like the rain has become too much for them, so where we were expecting to go and find them, so the water has made them come over toward those croton bushes. They look a little bit chilly, cold. They're actually on a raised area. The sun is slowly sinking into the clouds, so it seems like they're going to stay there for a little while. So the river pride, I haven't seen them rather for quite about 2 weeks. Now I remember the last time I saw them, they made a successful hunt where they took down a buffalo. I haven't seen the cubs at the moment, so I'm not quite sure where the cubs are. But because there are 4 lionesses, you find that they also alternate to taking care of the cubs. We've seen lots of activity during the rains, but in lion activity, you find that sometimes they face it a little bit hard after the rain because lots of plains game are evenly dispersed in this habitat, because there's lots of forest, there's lots of water. So where you expect them to go and drink water, they don't always come there, because the little holes or the little pools that form in the savannah actually quench those animals' thirst. So the trips towards the river become less and less day in, day out, as it carries on or continues on to rain. So these lions will take on to warthogs, because warthogs have their permanent burrows where they always live there, taking time to go from burrows to burrows. So these lions will prefer going on such prey. So this is when lions will actually be in an advantage being in a big pride, because old bachelor bulls will always hang around where they always are. So you find that most of this time you find that buffaloes will be taken on by lions. But once in a while you find that we have permanent or resident zebras and topi. So these lions can also prey on those. The grass is slowly growing up, and I can see it's becoming a little bit tough for some of the areas to even get across because there's too much rain. Something spooked him, maybe some flies there. So towards December, you'll find that these lions will actually be moving from territory to territory because of the long grasses. She's trying to make a contact call. It's nice seeing these lions. So I'll just leave them there because they look like they're just resting while she's making the contact call. So I'm going to take you over to another live location.
Our hyena cubs here have settled down just a little bit. I'm trying so hard to look at which of Hart's cubs is the male and the female, but I guess we will see as we go along. At least we found some identifying features. Hello and a very warm welcome to the American Academy for Girls in the UAE. Hello everyone, you know me, I'm Trishala. It's so wonderful to have you especially on board. And remember girls that you can send through your questions to kidsquestions at wildearth.tv, and we'd love to have all your questions. Please send them through. And I'm sure you have many about the hyenas too. So lovely to have schools on board. I wish when I was in school there was something like this and we could ask all the questions we wanted and then see animals and their behavior as well. Especially all the way on another continent. That would have been awesome. Things seem to have settled down here now. Everyone's a little tired. I still think that they're waiting for Corky's little one to come out and play. But she's still busy suckling. Mira, you have a very interesting question. You'd like to know, why do some animals have spots and other animals have stripes? There's an interesting answer too. The way that both of those coats, or if an animal has a coat, we call that a pelage. That fur for spots and for stripes develop in the same way. So when you see a stripe on an animal, what really it is biologically is a whole lot of, when you see stripes, a whole lot of spots that have clumped together to form a stripe. So the only reason that an animal would have stripes or spots, because biologically they occur in the same way, is because the stripes help an animal blend in better with their environment, or the spots help an animal blend in a different environment. For example, tigers, that we don't get in Africa, tigers have stripes, right? And tigers spend a lot of time in the forest where light comes through, and comes through in slivers. So having stripes can help it camouflage a little bit better, because the stripes look like shadow. Here, our predators are a big cat, like a leopard. Our leopard has spots. And that's because here, we don't get that same kind of shadow, that sliver-like shadow that you'd get in a jungle and forest, that you do in Asia where you find tigers. So here we get little spotty bits of light that come through in the bush. And for that reason, the leopards, another hyena's just come through, that's where they've run. That's why the spots work better for leopards. It just depends on what works best for you in your environment. Corky's one has run straight into the den. And spots and stripes have the same purpose. It's to help an animal be a little bit more camouflaged, blend in. One of the clan males just came through. Rhoda, you'd like to know, why do animals run and play? And same reason you run and play. Now you say animals, but it's particularly for mammals. And because we are mammals and hyenas are mammals, play is very important, because when you play with your siblings or your friends, in the same way as when these hyenas play with each other, they're learning very important social skills. So mammals are social animals, generally. They're learning important skills in how to interact with their own species. For you, how to interact with your brother and your sister or your cousins. And then they're also learning how to interact with not just individuals that they know, but individuals they don't know of the same species. How you interact with the shopkeeper, for example. Comes Corky. Oh, I've heard about her injury there. So when they run and play, they're learning all those important social skills. How to be with each other. And also how to hunt, how to survive. Because when they bite each other, then they know, ooh, this actually hurts the person I'm biting, or the other hyena that I'm biting. All of those types of things that they learn. And when they jump up and play and tumble and all of that, they're building up very important muscles. They're getting strong. And they're learning what their body can do. Okay, so here we got a clear view. I'm just going to grab my binoculars out for a second. So, for hearts to cubs, for the girls that have just joined us, hearts to cubs are the medium-sized ones. So you see there's a very small one that's suckling from mum there. That's her mum, and she's female. And then there's a one next to her that's medium-sized, and those belong to another female called heart. And that one there with the two stripes in the back that we identified looks like a runway coming from his tail. That one is a male. And it looked to me that the one next to him is his sister, and that is a female. But it can be very difficult to tell with hyenas because they have quite ambiguous genitals. That means it's not easy to see what the difference is. But that's what makes them really, really interesting as well. They're very interesting in that they live in these clans and there's lots of social interactions that happen, and they're very, very intelligent. But we'll chat more about that in a bit because I'm going to stick around with them.
Welcome back to And Beyond Pinde, everyone. And we've managed to find a herd of buffaloes. And they were down at a little watering hole, which is actually off to our right-hand side. But when we arrived, they got a little bit of a fright. They've moved away from the water slightly, so they're just standing, regrouping, because when they got a fright, they all kind of ran off in this direction and sort of split up a little bit. Now they're gathering themselves again. So we're hoping that while we sit here, they slowly head back down to the water. Some of them have started to feed again already on grass. And so what those buffaloes were doing is having their morning drink. So at the moment, especially in summer when it's so hot, they will drink twice a day, once in the morning and once in the evening. And after their morning drink, what they would do now is head to maybe feed a little bit and then head to a shady area to rest for the day. Rest through the heat of the day and then get up in the afternoon again. Move into a grazing area, have something to drink, and repeat that process.
Okay guys, so my day cannot get any better. Well, possibly if there's a pangolin that walks through here and the cubs start playing with that. That might be better. But as you know, I have been looking for these little guys for quite some time now. It is my first time seeing these little cubs, and we are actually treated with both sets of Southern Pride cubs and 5 females. So what happened was, just after I said hello to you this morning, literally like, I want to say 30 meters down the road, we found tracks for, well, there was a couple of different sets of tracks that went out of this block and then came back in. And the incoming tracks we could see that there was cubs with, so we sort of had an idea that there had to have been a kill made somewhere around here, because that's why the mom went and fetched them. But look at that. So this is quite early for these cubs to already be on a kill. I mean, if we look at the previous set of cubs, the ones that are now about 5.5 months old, we only saw them on a kill for the first time around about when they were 3.5 months of age. Now, if we are gauging it correctly, these guys are about 2.5 months old from when we started seeing little tracks and, seeing the female lactating and having suckle marks and all of those things. So rather early, but like I've mentioned previously, it doesn't necessarily mean that a cub can't eat meat at 2 months of age. it just all depends on the mother when she's going to introduce them into the pride and also to meet. So what is really quite interesting is there's another lion calling in the distance. But what is interesting is we actually drove past these lions. We didn't see them at first. They were quite deep into the block. And because we were looking for a kill site, we found some jackals, quite a few of them. And they were all looking around, and so we knew there had to have been a kill where they are. So we drove in and found where they had caught a zebra, the lions now. And that was already relatively well fed on. But then we saw that there was no lions and, nothing going on apart from the jackal. So saw the tracks going out and started following that and came to where they killed another zebra. So just in last night, these 5 females and now the 6 cubs that have joined them. So the cubs wouldn't have helped with the kill. They're a little bit too small. I think they were dreaming about helping. But these 5 females made 2 kills. And that's just a testimony to how well or how good they are at hunting. This southern pride females particularly. So excellent conditions for these cubs to grow up in. Having 5 females to hunt for them and provide for them that well, because even though 2 of them are the 2 sets of mothers that are raising the cubs at the moment, having the other 3 also being such great hunters, it's just going to help the moms to be able to constantly produce good milk and also have the cubs join on a kill every now and again. So they are going to grow like mushrooms. Oh, but those little ones are just too cute. I mean, that's just stunning. It wouldn't surprise me, though, if this is the first kill that they've joined on. I just had a question from Darla. Why do lions have a mane, Darla? Okay, so it's not only to look stunning. The main reason for a male lion's mane is, well, first of all, protection against other lions, because they have such a violent lifestyle. With male lions, they fight quite a bit. To not only protect their pride, but also to protect their territory and to keep that territory for as long as possible. So as you can imagine, there's quite constantly threats from other male lions coming in and trying to take over a group of females like this. So with that being the case, they've got that almost like a bulletproof layer around their neck and chest area, where all the important stuff are, to protect them from the claws and the teeth of other male lions when they're fighting. But then again, also it does act as a visual communication to attract the females to them. The more impressive the mane, the more the ladies will like that particular male. Especially when he's going into his prime. If he's got a big mane, that already helps. But if he goes into his prime and all his hormones get heightened in his body, testosterone specifically, that male lion will then grow dark around the mane when you go to places like the Lowveld and so on. That chocolatey brown color, very dark in color, almost black in some cases. And that will be so attractive to the ladies. Out here in the Kalahari, we have the male lions by default getting that black mane when they mature. That's just a genetic thing for them, but that is also going to be very impressive for the females. So first of all, it acts as protection, and then secondly, it's a visual communication of their dominance, which to a certain extent will repel other males, younger boys that don't have such an impressive mane yet. When you're coming around the corner, if you're a 4-year-old male lion and you are thinking about just, possibly going and trying to challenge the dominant male of that area or coalition of that area, and you walk into one of these big boys with a massive dark mane, that's going to intimidate you a little bit. And maybe cause those young boys to hold off from challenging for the territory for another year or so, until they are, properly, sorry for my wording there, grown out, and, also start getting that big impressive mane. But, okay, so the mane is just going to be as an effect of the age. You do find young males challenging dominant boys before they have as big of a mane as the dominant guys. So just had a question from Amna. Does a ranger have to cut the mane of a lion? No, we don't touch the mane. We wanted to, for the dominant boys and for the young boys or challenging males, to be as thick and as long as possible. So we don't interfere in processes like this at all. Guys, maybe if they're doing research on male lions and they want to see who's the mom and who's the dad of that particular male, if they're sedating him or putting him to sleep, they might pluck out one hair of the mane to do DNA testing. But not at all would we ever shave or cut the hair or do anything like this when it comes to any of the animals, for that matter, just because that is their natural protection, and we are not going to interfere with that at all. And the longer the mane and the bigger the mane, the more impressive it is for us also to see. They are much more beautiful when they've got that big, beautiful mane than when it looks like it's had a haircut. We do occasionally come across a male, let's say it was a dominant boy for very long, and he's now reached that point where he's not strong enough to defend his territory anymore. And there's other males coming in, and he loses the fight. It does look like his hair has been cut, but that's just because the other males took too much hair and everything. They had more claws and teeth in the mane of that male, so they took out a lot of the hair. But yeah, guys, we're going to stick with these lions a little bit, see if the cubs maybe want to start playing or the females want to start feeding or so. If that happens, we'll let you know. For the meantime, we're going to send you off somewhere else.
Well, from lions to more lions, I have one of the Olololo breakaways. I haven't seen them for quite a long time. It's nice to see them. This is a mother and her two almost fully grown cubs. She's the farthest to the right, not the one walking left, but the one facing away, not the one sitting. She's one of the Olololo breakaway. She's been looking at that bush for some reason, I don't know. Remember, this is life. It's coming from the Mara Triangle. Is that Mila? Jumbo, how much does an average lion weigh? If it's a male, give it a good 160 kilos. 160 kilos, that is average. But, fully grown, or maximum length, maximum weight of a fully grown lion can be up to 220 to 250 kilograms. That is rare to come across, but 160 is very, very common. For lionesses, about 100 kilos to 120. Don't know if it's gonna roar. Listen to that. Well, that roar is very distinct and very important. It's distinct because it is contacting other Pride members and also communicating, telling everybody around who doesn't belong to this territory that they are here, this is their territory. So it is very important. I think the two youngsters haven't fully started roaring because normally when one female starts to roar, everybody roars, but they didn't. So I think maybe they haven't started roaring. It would be interesting to hear her, and if they join in, could be very, very interesting. There is nothing like a lion roar. It is so special, it is unique, and it's nice to hear it out in the wild like this. Looks like they're thinking of something. Fatma, Jambo, how do you tell lions apart? Well, when they're very young, it's very difficult. But once they age, like this female, look at her when she's walking away. You will notice that her one ear is sort of chopped, on the top. I don't know how that happened, but they develop, or through their life, they will develop some markings either inflicted by other Pride members or by nature. And that's how we identify each one of them. Apart from that, scientists or researchers are able to identify them by the whiskers. They can count the whiskers. Each and every lion has got different kind of whiskers, and it's very easy to identify that. But because we are not always very close for us, we identify them by markings and scarring in their faces, either by a scratch mark or an ear loss, a tail loss, things like that. But also, where we find them, we are able to tell you that, we are in this territory and this is such and such, but mostly by some markings in their body. It looks like they're very uncomfortable in this area, and they keep moving. So I'm gonna stick with them for a little bit, and hopefully maybe they'll lead us to the rest of the Pride, or maybe relax, because they seem to be very uneasy. They're looking up, they're roaring. I don't know for what reason. Okay, let's take you to another live location.
Lions might look uneasy, but these elephants are incredibly relaxed and playful. They arrived in Lovo Dam not even 5 minutes ago, and they haven't stopped enjoying the water since then. Some of them even drinking, which I find quite strange, because all they do is defecate and urinate in this water while they play, and it's not very nice. It smells a little bit interesting, but I suppose playing is thirsty work, and they've been doing a lot of it. There's one elephant bull in this group who's quite large. He's just submerged himself now, so he looks very small, but he'll make his way up now. He's just to the right of the screen now. And as he moves up, you see his tusks are quite a bit larger than the other elephant bulls. There's also a herd of buffalo, which we can't see right now. They're in a bit of an awkward position, but it's another herd of buffalo that's also coming down to the dam, a different one. So if Minamu's still watching, we're pleased to know that the delicious grass and the lovely water on Pride Lands has drawn yet another herd of buffalo into the area. It's a lot of splashing and grunting and groaning. The buffaloes are arriving behind us, and they're watching the elephants playing, and they're not really sure how exactly They're going to get down to the water's edge, but they'll make it. Haya and Hiva, that is another excellent question. Elephants have big ears for a number of reasons. And now as BK zooms in on the ear of this elephant, you'll see that it is filled with veins. I don't know if you can see that. And as it opens them, you can see the veins behind the ear as well. So now those veins are, well, the heart, the massive heart of the elephant is pumping blood around the body, and it goes through the veins on the elephant's ears. And it helps to cool down that blood, which then goes into the body and cools down the core temperature of the elephant. So on a very hot day, you'll see an elephant flapping its ears frequently, which will allow it to have more air passing over it, cooling it more. So in essence, it increases the surface area of the elephant. So that is one of the reasons. But now you can see this elephant, it's opened its ears, it's looking forward towards the buffalo, who are now arriving at the waterhole. And you'll see that they also use those big ears to hear much better what is happening around them. It also makes them much larger and more intimidating when they feel threatened. So they'll raise their head up and open their ears, and they will look very, very scary to anything that's worrying them. So there's all the elephants there having a good old play, and slowly but surely the buffaloes arrive as well. What a spectacular morning. BK and I sort of decided early this morning that we were going to spend the whole day at this dam. We're not going to leave at all, just so we can really see what arrives. And I mean, we obviously live in the camp right at this dam, but you know, when you're doing your normal day's events, you don't notice everything that comes down. So today we're going to try and see if we can really document every animal that comes down to the water. There's also a group of giraffes that was on the way here. They'll probably arrive later in the morning. It will be also really great to see. Time for a little drinks break. Too much play and not enough drinking, you'll dehydrate. And they do say dehydration is the biggest killer in Africa. The search for water is a never-ending quest. Well, please welcome your questions. I'd love to hear them. Please don't forget to send those questions through to @FC or #WildEarth on the Twitter, and also any kids watching, kids questions at wildearth.tv. Here you can see the buffaloes now slowly making their way further and further into the water to try and avoid the muddy shallows. That's good for mud wallowing, not so much good for drinking. So we're trying to get further in. Hunger and Danya, elephants have long trunks for a number of reasons as well. Just like their ears have multiple functions, the noses or the trunks have a lot of functions. So you can see these elephants are putting themselves in the water quite deeply, and so they can breathe through that like a straw. So it allows them to breathe whilst they're underwater, crossing deep water. They can suck water into the trunk and then spray it into their mouth. That is how they drink. And it's very, very sensitive. As you can see now, these two elephants are touching all over each other because they've got a lot of sensory organs or sensory receptors. They can really feel and taste a lot of stuff on the end of their trunk. They can smell with it, of course, and they use it as a tool. Just like we have hands to grasp things, the elephants use the end of their trunk to pluck things. They can wrap their powerful trunk around tree branches and break them. They can do all sorts of things with it. It's really a versatile tool. Oh, you can hear the buffaloes making noise next to us. There's so much amazing sounds happening right now. Maybe we'll just listen to it for a few moments. Amazing to listen to the splashes and the grunts and the groans, not only of the elephants but also of this buffalo herd. You can hear them getting into the water even deeper now. Fatma, that is sometimes difficult to tell with certain animals, but not always. So with buffaloes, we can tell males from females because the male, this is a female that you can see right on the screen now. So you can see she's given birth at some point. She's got quite swollen teats between her back legs. So that there is where the youngsters will drink the milk. So that's quite an obvious thing. Now, if you look at the horns of this buffalo, they are slender. There's not a very big horn mass called a boss on top of this. So she's a female. And now if there's a male somewhere where BK can see it, he'll show you what the horns of a male looks like. So BK, where can I find it? There's a male. There's very few. There's one at the top there, BK. I think you can see it. Yes, that's a male. So you can see now that has got a very heavy mass of bone and keratin on the top. That's the boss. Okay, that's what it's called. And that is how you tell a male buffalo from a female. So there's a female and the male passing behind. Also, of course, you can see the penile sheath just on the belly there. The penile sheath of the... It's quite easy to tell. Now, with the elephants that you see, it's not so easy, but with a bit of experience, you can identify males from females because male elephants have much bigger, rounder foreheads and usually bigger tusks as well. These elephants seem to be deciding that they are finishing with their play, and they're going to probably drink and start heading out, which means that the buffaloes could probably get a bit further into the water and enjoy it much the same. I love watching how the elephants just touch each other all over, really getting tactile, feeling everything. They're very sensory animals. They haven't got great eyesight, but they've got incredible hearing, and their sense of smell is fantastic. And they can taste everything by touching it with their trunk and then putting the trunk in their mouth. And by doing that, they can get a lot of information. It must be so nice when you're so heavy to be in the water like this and be almost weightless. It must be such a great feeling for an elephant. You've got to walk for hours and hours every day, just constantly on the move, standing up, and then when you go in the water, you just float around, and it's so lovely. These are great questions. Keep them coming. I really love answering these questions. I hope you're enjoying getting the answers. I hope they're satisfactory. Much bigger herd of buffalo than the previous one. So see what this elephant's doing? See the trunk is just sticking out like that because the mouth is underwater. It can't breathe with the mouth, so it's just using the trunk to breathe the air. You'll see baby elephants doing it quite often when the mothers try and cross a small river. So the river might not be that deep for the mother, but for the baby it's very deep. And so you'll just see the trunk up like a snorkel, just breathing air through that. I wonder what it must be like when they've got a blocked nose. It must be horrible. And an elephant sneeze must be quite an incredible thing as well. Can't say that I've ever heard an elephant sneeze before. I thought playtime was over. It's definitely not. The elephants are on their way back now. I wonder if they head towards the buffalo, what might happen.
We have had to leave the den. Everyone went inside and Corky is gone. But we've heard some alarm calls here. So we're just going to sit tight and watch this drainage and have a bit of a listen to the sounds. Lovely sounds, as well as keeping an ear out for those warning sounds, those alarm calls. Everything sounds pretty peaceful now, though, so we can just enjoy the sounds. Lots of sweet sounds of birds calling. Insects as well. Beautiful green trees, flowers popping about all over the place. And it's actually a little overcast. The sun is not beating down on us. So a really nice, peaceful time in the bush this morning.
Well, look at how fast these guys can go. I don't know if you saw that, but these guys can move. This is a hippo trying to get back to water. This is an area you don't want to be found, or you don't want to find yourself. One was running really fast. Their raised head, look at them. Yeah, you really get to see them do this. Yes, that's actually just jogging for them. They can go faster. Yeah, those are hippos running. You always see them in the water, wallowing, walking, but they can move, my friend. Look at that. I don't know what happened. They caught themselves out in the open, and they want to be close to water. And that's how fast they can go. Look at that. Yes, and now they're in the safety of the bushes. They can walk slowly towards their favorite spot, the pod. Look at that. Yeah, so when any of our guides tell you hippos do run, and they can run faster than most of us, better trust them. They are very, very fast, and you cannot outrun them. They have 4 legs, you have 2, and very dangerous. So they are to be avoided by all means. I have a respect #1 for them. Well, I'm gonna continue on. It's quite beautiful right now. The sun is just perfect. I'm hoping to see some baboons, but then I'm gonna go back and see those lionesses. I don't know exactly what they're up to. They look very uneasy, so I don't know what's happening with them, but I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna check the baboons up here and then go back. Let's take you to another live location.
Okay, so look at how cool this is. Now you can, well, first of all, look at how cool it is that the cubs are playing, but you can also now get a good indication of this big size difference between the 5.5-month-old cubs and the 2.5-month-old cubs. I mean, to think that in 3 months they grow that quickly is insane. And they've got full bellies, so they are happy. They're not in the mood for sleeping just yet, as you can see. And everything is interesting. Oh, this is so cute. I mean, how cool is that? And it amazes me to see how, you know, those older cubs have a perspective of the force that they can use. I mean, they are playing, and believe me, if they're playing with each other, you know, direct siblings with each other, they're playing a lot harder than when they're playing with these little guys, which is quite cool to see. It's not every day that we get to witness this. Oh, and that tip of the tail is just the best. Shame. So we just had a question from Sarah. How many months does it take to give birth to a lion cub? Sarah, the gestation period for a lion is generally around 110 days. It's not set. Sometimes you have them giving birth at 105, sometimes a little longer. But typically, we work on about 3.5 months. So with the lions, they are, well, predators in general. They've got a relatively short gestation period relative to their body size, with lots of little ones in the litter. But the main reason for that is just imagine carrying 3 baby lions in your belly or in your womb and having to run around hunting and surviving with that for 9 months. That would be torture. So because of that, they've got a shorter gestation period. The babies are born very underdeveloped, eyes closed, not being able to walk. They're absolutely dependent on their mom, as you can imagine. And because of that then, the litter size can be larger, but like I said, lots of parental care is still involved. I can just see that female, that's the mother of the small cubs. She's, well, let me just make sure. I think it's the mother of the small cubs, but even if it isn't, I can't see lactating. Oh, no, that one at the back that's still staring. She's the mother of the small cubs. And they are very interested in whatever's going on behind us. Possibly some jackal movement there at the back. The way they're looking right now is exactly where they made that first kill. So I wonder if they're not seeing a jackal moving around. Or, with all the sounds and activities that's been around, it's possible that one of the male lions might have caught wind on them or something like that. So could be approaching as well. But we'll just give it some time, see if whatever they're seeing is not coming any closer. But yeah, Sarah, sorry, to come back to your question, very short gestation period. The lion's generally 110 days. If you go to something like a leopard, they're between 90 and 100 days. Cheetahs are around 90. So very, very short gestation period, especially if you take into consideration that, the animal that they killed just now, the zebra, they've got a 365-day gestation period. So exactly a year, and they only give birth to 1 baby. So that's the other side of the coin. The fact that they do have smaller or shorter gestation periods allows them to have more babies at a time, the lions now. And that is also very important because, unfortunately, this is the way of the bush, because of them being predators, everything that can kill a lion when it's a baby will. So typically speaking, only 20% of cubs, so only 1 in every 5, will reach 2 years of age, which is rather unfortunate, but unfortunately a hard truth. So we just had a question from Latifa. How do the animals survive in the hot weather? Latifa, there's a number of different adaptations that they have with regards to that. If we're talking specifically about lions, after our very cold winter months, you'll find them shedding their longer winter coat and having very, very short hair. They also seek out the shade of the shepherd's tree, or in this case, the blackthorn trees, which is quite thick, as you can see. Nice cover. So they'll lie in that during the day. Things like a shepherd's tree, they say that the shade underneath the shepherd's tree is about 10 degrees cooler than the actual day temperature outside. So that'll help a lot. Then also, when you look at the lions, you'll see that they've got a very white belly. Okay, so what they do with that is they go and, just like your dog or your cat at home when they've had a big meal, they go and lie on their back and expose that belly to the ground, to the breeze. Now, that belly or the stomach area is where most of the body heat is created. So what happens is when they open up their belly to the breeze, a lot of that body heat that is created gets taken away by the breeze, and that's how they cool down as well. They also pant, so they lose quite a bit of body heat by breathing heavily with their mouths open. So that's how they typically, deal with the warm temperatures. Things like oryx, gemsbok now, they've got like a spider web type of vein network in the bridge of their nose, just running along their nostrils, which when they breathe, the blood that runs along the nostrils there gets cooled down sufficiently enough to go into the brain and not be fatal. The rest of their body, they'll sometimes allow to go up to as high as 42 degrees Celsius. However, if that blood at 42 degrees Celsius had to get into the brain, that would be fatal. So they've got that carotid reed system that we talk about that cools down the blood. And then a number of different other adaptations. I mean, there's so many with different animals that it's difficult to explain every single one to you. Some of them hide in burrows, some of them seek shade, some of them lie in the water, those types of things. But yeah, guys, we are going to continue enjoying this sighting. Maybe see whatever they spotted might come closer. If that does happen, we'll let you know. But for the meantime, we're going to send you somewhere else.
How awesome is this? We've managed to catch up with the wild dogs that have been I've been driving crazily through the property to find them, but they've been running through. They're very curious about us. It's quite a large pack. I haven't been able to see just yet, but it looks like there's quite a few puppies, which would tell me it's a Pungwe pack, but I haven't seen the female with the lip and the collared male. It looks like the puppies are now basically chilling out here in the drainage and the adults have gone. It's likely that the adults have gone out hunting. They were just further ahead. I only saw a few of them. Our wild dogs move so quickly, as you know, so the majority of the time we spend with them is just trying to catch up. Right. Let's try. I've got a bit of a problem here. You can see this sandy bit of drainage there. And I don't have a gap here. All right, I'm going to have to go around and do it very quickly. So I'll see you when I find them again.
Welcome back to Ambient Pinde, everyone. Sounds like there's a lot of action happening in Djuma at the moment. But we have managed to find these 3 cheetah, and they were moving, they were walking, covering some ground a couple minutes ago, and they've only just recently settled down in some shade, and you'll see that they've all got their mouths open and they are breathing quite heavily. So they have been moving, and it is already really quite hot in Pinde, and they've been moving through the open areas under the direct sunlight, so they've started to get quite hot, and they've now found this nice shady spot to settle down, and it seems like they're going to be settling down here for the day. You see that cub in the middle, so the 2 on the left are the cubs and the one on the right is the mom. Reed, thank you, Reed, for the question asking, are there any animals that are endangered over there where I am? So these cheetah are one of the endangered species that we have on Pinde. And yes, there are a number of other species that are endangered. So other species on Phinda would be the white and black rhino. We have both species of rhino on Phinda. And then there's a number of endangered bird species that we get on Phinda. But yeah, it's quite special that the animal that we're looking at right now, these cheetah are an endangered species. And so we're doing a lot of conservation work on Phinda and across South Africa on trying to protect and look after these cheetah. So a big part of what we do on Phinda is we partner with other game reserves and try to help the cheetah. So we will move cheetah from Phinda to other reserves and cheetah from other reserves onto Phinda to help with the genetic diversity. And we are constantly monitoring the cheetah. If there's any injury or suspicion of illness in the cheetah, then we will get a vet in to have a look. If there's a physical injury, the vet will treat the injury. And if there's some kind of illness, they will try to find out what it is and treat the cheetah accordingly. So it's really nice to see that this mother has raised these two cubs to this stage of their life already. And they're around about 7 or 8 months old now. And these two cubs are two young males, so they are brothers, which means that they will stick together when they do leave their mum, or when their mum leaves them. They will stick together and form a coalition. And what's quite exciting is on Phinda we have two other sets of mothers with two cubs each. And the one mother has, so these are two young males. The one mother has a young male and a young female. And the third set has also got a young male and a young female. So whenever there's a female born, we get quite excited and optimistic, because cheetah females obviously are the ones that are going to be able to keep on breeding and keep on reproducing and producing young cheetah. And there are quite a lot of males. Males seem to have a better chance of survival because they will stick together, and so they have a better chance of spotting or detecting any kind of danger. Whereas the females go through quite short sections of their life, but they do go through these sections of their life when they are by themselves. So when they have cubs like now, you can see, if you look at the direction that their heads are looking, all three of these cheetah are looking in a different direction. So if there was to be any danger approaching, at least one of them would detect it. But you can imagine if there was one cheetah by itself lying under this tree, it's kind of got its eyes to look in one direction, and its ears can possibly listen in another direction, and then its nose can try to pick up any scent if there is a breeze blowing from a third direction. But I mean, they've got much less chance of spotting or detecting anything dangerous than, for example, these three cheetah have a much better chance than one by itself. See, they're all starting to fall asleep. And see, Mom's got her feet, her back paws resting on her cub's belly. So Craig and I are just going to sit here and enjoy these cheetah. We might try and get a different position to get a different view of them but we're not going to go anywhere for now.
Okay, so, all right, something very different for you. We're gonna show it to you. This is a flower, and it does produce a very beautiful flower. It is of the morning glory family, and in this family, you might be familiar with them. There is very many species found all over the world. This is Ipomia hildebranti. Grows in these altitudes of 5,700 feet all the way down to around 2,000. So it does very well in the rainy season, produces that beautiful purplish whitish flower. And in the evening, it closes down, and early in the morning, slowly it comes to life, opening up, exposing its petal on the inside. And it's a good time to see a bee, a wasp, or even a butterfly come collect some nectar. Mostly it's pollinated by those three: bees, wasps, and even sunbirds. They do pollinate them, and it is a beautiful flower. Although it takes over if not taken care of, but it's perfectly adapted living out in the open plains like this, as you can see, because nobody disturbs it here. And so it is perfectly left alone to be here in the wilderness like it is.
Got a new elephant that joined the fun. The buffalo herd have moved off. So the elephant on the left of the screen there, you can see the top of his head is dry. He just arrived, not long ago. He's coming in to join the rest of the fellas. Now, I don't know what the relation of all these elephants is. They're all fairly young bulls, except for the one. Even he's quite young. They're all just socializing. Remember, these have all been kicked out of their herds when they reached their late teens, early 20s. They were no longer allowed to stay with the herd, with the females and the youngsters, because of this behavior, this rambunctious, sort of aggressive, very, playful attitude that they have. They're stronger than they think, or than they realize, I would say. And so they're, in danger of hurting the younger members of a herd, and especially all this mounting that they're doing. This is practice for the mating later on. And, if they're getting a little bit amorous and there's some females that are in estrus, they may try to mount them. And if they haven't perfected the technique, they can hurt each other. So they get kicked away by the mothers, the older females, and they have to make their own way, often forming small bachelor groups just like this. Learning from each other, supporting each other, and then later in life, when they get very large, fighting each other for the dominance of the herds in order to mate. I think that's very far from their minds right now, though. Right now it's all about wrestling and fun. There's also a herd of impala that's slowly approaching the waterhole. Might come and drink as well, so that adds to the tally of animals that have come to the waterhole this morning. Of splashing and noise. I hope that the sun burns off these clouds and makes it nice and hot. That always means that more animals come down to the water. It'll make it even more exciting. So there was one of the students just now gave us a bit of a wave in the distance. So we're obviously at Ndlovu Dam, close to the camp, and he waved at us. I wondered what was going on. And they said, "We've just seen a woodlands kingfisher." And that is a very exciting moment, because the woodlands kingfisher is a migrant. And we've been waiting for them to arrive. I don't know if they've been seen yet at Djuma, but if or at Ngala, but now might be the very first record of them at Pride Lands for their for the year, or for at least the season. So that's very exciting. They've migrated all the way from Central Africa and West Africa down here to make the most of the abundant insect life. If we see it again, I'd love to get it on camera for you in case you haven't yet seen it at Djuma and Ngala. It's a really, really beautiful bird. Grey colour, long two-tone bill, and then bright blue wing feathers. It's gorgeous. Gorgeous. The elephants don't mind about the birds. When you're an animal weighing 7 tons, well, these ones probably don't weigh that much, but when you're so big, birds don't usually come too much into your attention. Unless they're oxpeckers landing on you. Elephants hate that. I don't know why. Maybe their skin is too sensitive with those sharp little oxpecker claws, but elephants very rarely allow oxpeckers on them. Fatma, elephants are certainly not afraid of buffaloes. In fact, the reason the buffaloes left is because some of the young elephant bulls actually started chasing them. They'll chase them away from the water because they don't like to share the resources. I wouldn't say elephants are selfish, but they're powerful enough to be able to dominate resources like this waterhole. I've seen a few standoffs before between elephants and buffaloes, but the elephants always come off best. They're so massive. I mean, they weigh 4 or 5 times the amount of a buffalo, so there's really no contest there. There's not... Oh, look at the impalas in the background, going crazy. Some more male impalas chasing each other. There's more coming as well. So that's a whole bachelor group that's up there, and they're chasing each other now. You know, sometimes, especially early mornings, there's a little bit of excitement, and they often chase each other around, making those loud calls and grunting and groaning. So there's another one that's going to come into the screen now at the back there. See how he's flared his tail out, showing those white outer fur. Oh, do you see that jump? Amazing. So they're showing off their exuberance and their fitness in the back there. So impalas would probably be afraid of buffalo. Oh, now I see why they're running around. There's another vehicle that's approaching the sighting there. There's a few vehicles that move around Pridelands as well as us and our students, because it's such a productive area. It's always nice to have guests as well. I mean, this is something that is worth sharing. Look how white the tusks of these elephants are. And they play so much in the water like this. It really cleans the tusks so nicely, and they look very white. So that's the one with the longer tusks in the middle there, who's still fairly young. It'll be amazing to see what his tusks will look like in 10 years, because they keep growing, well, pretty much throughout their life, but it's all genetically based. Some elephants will have bigger tusks than others normally. But it'll be interesting to see what his tusks will look like in 10 years. Shaika, if an animal gets hurt, and this is a question we get asked a lot by guests and students, if we find an injured animal, we have to figure out, was this animal injured in a natural circumstance? Like, did an elephant fight with another elephant and they get injured? In which case we wouldn't step in and get involved. It's a natural thing that happened. It's not our place to get involved, generally speaking. If that animal was hurt by something that was a man-made situation, let's say, I don't know, there was a snare, because we have something called poaching, which is where people illegally hunt animals. So if we found an impala that was caught in a snare, or a wild dog, or a hyena, we would be obligated to step in and help that animal, because it was not its fault that it got caught in this man-made object. So then we would definitely help. And in some situations with very rare animals, like, let's say, cheetahs or painted wolves or wild dogs, maybe something like a pangolin, rhinos. If these animals are found injured, because they are so rare, we would also probably step in and try and help them to see if we can increase their chance of survival, because they're a natural resource that's so important. You know, any animal that becomes extinct has huge knock-on effects on all the other surrounding animals and wildlife in general. So rare animals we'd probably also try to help in order to sustain the population. It's a good question. And it's difficult sometimes. I mean, when you see, let's say, a buffalo calf, they're not endangered or rare animals. You see a buffalo calf stuck in mud and it can't get out, and the rest of the buffaloes are all freaking out because the calf's stuck. I mean, I guess, ethically speaking, we should leave the buffalo. It got itself stuck in a water hole by itself. We shouldn't step in, but, you know, as a human being, your heart sometimes just pulls you and you can't help yourself but try and get this poor creature unstuck. It happens quite often, and you'll see it frequently. Human nature is to be compassionate, I think, so we've really got to balance those odds between being ethical, not interfering with nature, and being compassionate and helping. Difficult one to balance. There are many stories where people have gotten involved when they probably shouldn't have, but at the end of the day, no one would really be upset about it because you've helped an animal to survive. As long as you didn't steal food from another animal, which of course that could be the case. If buffalo gets stuck in the mud, eventually probably will get eaten by something, so it's a tough one. Well, the elephants now definitely seem like at least some of them are finished with the swimming. Let's see what they do next.
These guys look like they haven't moved much, but in fact they took us on a wild goose chase. They're so mobile, they're so lean, and they are proper chasers, and this is the best type of weather for them. It's overcast. That's wild dog weather. So they went and they chased after an impala, and that thing bolted. It was very, very, very fast. But they were obviously unsuccessful because now they're sitting here on the road again. I suspect very strongly that we're going to have a hunt in our hands. Problem is that both sides, the block on both sides of this road is quite dense. And of course, being our rainy season, it's just going to get more dense and more dense. So it means it's difficult to actually be able to see them make a kill. And if you've ever seen wild dogs make a kill, the consumption happens so quickly. You might hear a squeal, you hear that something's happening, you get there within 2 minutes and you would never recognize what animal it was, unless the horns are left behind. Now they're just relaxing. I want to keep quiet and I want to listen for a little bit because this is not the full pack, obviously. Aaron, well, we'll be silent after we answer Aaron's question to have a listen. But Aaron wanted to know what's the difference between a wild dog and an African painted dog. They're the same thing. So a wild dog is the traditional, shall I say, name for them. But as conservationists and biologists, we're trying to move away from using wild dog, because if you randomly go to somebody and say, oh, it's a wild dog, they think that it's a feral dog or a street dog or something like that. But in fact, it is an entire species on its own and it's endangered. Lycaon pictus is the Latin name, and it's the same thing as a painted wolf, an African painted dog, or a wild dog. It's just that growing up, I've always known it as a wild dog. That's what comes naturally. But really, we should be calling them painted dogs or painted wolves. To try and move away from that kind of, oh, it's a feral domestic dog idea. And a lot of the time, and why this is happening, that we're trying to move away from that, is that many farms in this area. Obviously, the distribution of these dogs were all over South Africa, particularly, I'm speaking about. And there were farms all over South Africa, and they still are. And these dogs became pests. They would often kill cattle, and they're very, very good at hunting, especially if the animals, like domesticated animals like cattle and other animals, are easy pickings. And they would cause really big problems for farmers, and so then they would be killed. And when you use the word wild dog, it still has that kind of connotation. So you're absolutely correct, and now we should be moving to painted dog or painted wolves, just to get rid of that stigma that they're pests, because they are anything but that, and they have a very small population and they're endangered. And that's why we're very, very lucky to see them as frequently as we do in this area. There is a black-back puffback that is calling very close to me. I'll point it out in a moment. There did one little one. There it goes. I'm horrible at bird call, as you know. Hi, Hamda. You have an interesting question. You'd like to know, if you are in the savannah, will you be able to touch a lion? If you are out in the savannah, you will not be able to touch a lion. Or if you do, it'll be the last thing that you do. And after that, you won't be able to do anything else. That is if you're out in the wild. Now, in many places in Africa, there's lion parks where you can go and touch a lion. This is something that you don't want to do. It's not encouraged. It's not good. It's not good for you. It's not good for the animals, especially, because those animals are kind of like prisoners. They're trapped. They're kind of like slaves. And that's the best way I can describe it. So you don't want to go to a lion park to touch lions. We don't need to touch lions. I don't need to touch a lion. You don't need to touch a lion. I just need to see them. I think we can recognize all the beauty we need to by watching them. We don't need to touch them. If you do really, really want to touch a lion, then I suggest that you study really hard and become a wildlife vet. That way you'll have a good opportunity to get to know and appreciate all the wild animals in the world, or wherever you're from, particularly, and then you'll be able to touch them. But you'll have to work very hard to get there. But I'm sure that you'll be able to do that. I'm going to wait here and see. The cubs have probably settled down in the drainage. Maybe we'll go around and have a look, but for now I'm just glad that we can stay still and stationary and watch these dogs, and we'll continue to do that.
I can't really remember the last time I saw wild dogs here in the Mara, but sometimes we see pairs coming in and out of these game reserves. But it will always be nice to watch wild dogs. Now here we have our elephants who are slowly grazing. And I can see some youngsters at the back following this matriarch, who's actually the third from the left of the screen. You can see this is the one that is flapping slowly. When you got here, all these elephants were just slowly grazing, but after a couple of minutes, they decided to move on. And I'm sure that is the role of the matriarch, who's decided it's time to carry on. Elephants prefer grass to eat, and you find that now we have the rains, the short rains. This is also very, very nice and important for them because of the little calves that they have. There's plenty of water. The grass is much softer for the young ones to eat and digest. But during the dry season, when the food is sparse or less grass, they will take on to browsing, where you find lots of trees push down broken branches, where they'll eat the leaves and peel off the bark to add up nutrients in their body. Adrian, the eyesight is not as good compared to their hearing and smelling. So I've had a couple of times where I've been on a walking safari and I had to get close to an elephant to about 10 meters and really didn't see me very well. So what elephants depend on highly is their smell and hearing. So they don't have a very nice or good sight. You can see while they're walking up the road, the calves are placed in the middle, so the adults will be on either side, placing the young ones in the middle. So they always worry, especially they'll be a little bit nervous when they have young calves like that. But when you come across a big herd like this, they'll be less nervous than small herds. Evelyn, what makes an elephant aggressive is, number one, when they feel threatened, when, for example, they are driving towards them and start revving the car, that can make them aggressive. When a cow has a young calf, they tend to defend the calves. So you don't want to be in between the calf and the mother. That will also make them aggressive, especially these big mature cows. So some factors may make these animals aggressive. So if you encounter them on foot, they get to smell a human being, or you actually separate a calf to the mother, you get too close with the car and the engine is still revving. So those are some of the signs that can make them aggressive. When you shout, loud noise can also make them aggressive. So we always give them space. We always want them to be as peaceful as they are in their natural habitat. So whenever we come across such herds, be it a single or be it in a big herd, we always make sure that we switch off our engines and we are actually at a safe distance where they have a way of maneuvering. It's such a nice herd to watch as they're grazing. I'm just going to stick around with them as I take you over to another live location.
And this one is about to drink, which is fantastic. Watch how it does this. It's going to approach very, very carefully towards the water's edge, checking to make sure there's no crocodile or something else that can hurt it. There's no lions around. And then it will lean itself forward with its legs splayed quite wide and its knees bent, and will take a sip, but it'll choose carefully where it goes. It doesn't want to be in too much mud, so I don't even know what it's doing right now. I think it's making all the worst choices. Perhaps it's not even going to drink at all. Let's have a look here. If it goes to drink from that really muddy section, I'll be very surprised, because that's a good place for a giraffe to slip over and fall, which would make it very, very vulnerable. Where are they? Where are they going? There's 4 giraffes here. See now, it is actually walking through the mud, which is quite surprising. This is a very lovely coloured giraffe. There was a male around here. It was very, very dark in colour. This one looks like it's going to make the right decisions. Hopefully, coming down to drink, but when you're a giraffe, it takes a long time to make these decisions.
They've come back towards the dam. It's very nice to see them just calm down and relax, because so often they are all over the place. Now we're just chilling. This is also a good spot if you're a predator, because many herbivores come down to the water's edge to have a drink, and if they can maintain a low profile, they could get lucky here. Split just a little bit. The 3 adults are on that road that we left when you saw us last. There are at least 2 adults with the group now. And now they're starting to move again. Like usually this is a flat-out frenzy. So I'm very, very appreciative of this type of sighting. Everything seems so quiet, as if the word has gotten around that the dogs are around. This is normally herbivores all around. Sir 50, you'd like to know if the painted dogs have the best hearing amongst all the predators? That's an awesome question, but again, it's the type of question that's difficult to answer because we can't really compare that. But what we can do is infer from the adaptations that we see in these animals. So we know that these dogs have huge ears. Huge, huge ears. Look at that. Almost like a bunny. And from that inference, I would say that they would have the best hearing of all predators. But why would that be? Apart from the fact that, they want to hear for prey, like all predators do. They also need to listen to each other and for each other. And I think that strong social bond and maintaining the pack has contributed to those large ears and good hearing as well. Predators use a combination of all of their senses because it's such a, excuse me, because it takes so much effort to prey on something else. It's so much easier to just be a sessile organism in the ocean that just catches whatever floats by, which is how organisms were a long, long time ago. And then once that predator-prey relationship started to happen, more energy was required, and then an arms race started to happen. That's when one does this and the other one needs to do it better in order to keep up. And so predators have really good senses all round, with a lull here and there. Cat's eyesight, excellent. I'd say better than a dog's eyesight, but only just because it's a combination of those senses that work. As for herbivores, they will prioritize very much because they are focused solely on surviving those predators. Well, I'm going to swing round now and see if we can catch up with the rest of the pack.
So Trishala's right. It is difficult to measure, but... Oh, wait, hold on. Before I talk about that, let's just enjoy this giraffe drinking. Super awkwardly. Always with the flick at the end. Majestic. So, generally speaking, you can judge how sensitive an animal's hearing, sense of smell or eyes are, or sight, by how big their ears are, their eyes or their nose. So, a giraffe's ears are big, their eyes are big, and their nose is big, so you know they're all very good. But which one is the strongest, or is it better than some other animal? It's very difficult to tell. I mean, how would you measure that in a wild circumstance? It's very difficult. Whichever one notices the predator first, I suppose. But these giraffes are amongst all the impala. The impala will be happy to be surrounded by the giraffes, or rather the giraffes happy to be surrounded by the impala. Giraffes are very tall. They can spot danger from a mile away, from at least a very far distance. And then the giraffes can also be quite content in the knowledge that it's unlikely a lion would hunt them if there are so many impalas about. The giraffes are so curious, always stopping and staring in every direction. In fact, this morning, BK and I spent a good 10 minutes watching a giraffe and a youngster staring into a drainage line, and we went to investigate. Couldn't find anything, but really do think that there was something there. Maybe a leopard was in the bushes or some other predator, because the giraffe stared for a long time. It was really something to keep an eye out for, because giraffes are generally very alert. Although they don't make any noises, mostly they're quite silent. But if they stare in a direction, you know there's almost certainly something there. Hunger. Giraffes use their tongues by... Well, so the tongue of a giraffe is very long. About 45 centimeters of it can come out of the mouth, which is really long. It's almost as long as a person's arm, let's say. And so that tongue comes out the mouth. It's very, very, how can I say, what's the word I'm looking for? Prehensile. It can move and be controlled very comprehensively by a giraffe. So it can really wrap around a branch and bring it down to the mouth. So imagine a giraffe is very tall, but during the end of the dry season, when all of the leaves that it can reach have been eaten, it then needs to have that little bit of extra reach. So the tongue will come out the mouth, grab a branch that's just out of reach and pull it, literally wrap around the branch and pull it down into its mouth. We might be lucky enough to see that. If these giraffes stick around this area a bit longer, we might get to see them feeding, and we might get to see them pulling those branches into their mouths, although there's plenty that's within reach. Right now the giraffes are just chewing the cud which is basically just rechewing the food that they've already eaten in order to get more nutrients out of it. Watch this, there's a bolus that's going to come into its mouth. And there's a bit of a cheek pouch there where it can put the food whilst it chews, and then it swallows a little bit, chews some more, swallows, and eventually it's all gone. The giraffe is staring into our camp intently. Our students are leaving today, so they're all prepping their bags and getting packed. The giraffe are very interested in what they're doing. The impala are also starting to come down now to the water's edge, an even slower process than it was with the giraffes, because they are even more vulnerable when they drink than a giraffe potentially. If there was a crocodile in here, which they could be, I didn't know there were fish in here, and we saw a heron catching a fish, quite a big fish, yesterday. So there's almost certainly a possibility for there to be a small crocodile in here, and even a small croc could grab an impala and pull it into the water. Impalas will be quite cautious as they approach the water as well. All rams, as you can see, all males. Those three at the back are large, fully adult impalas. The one at the front there is what we would call a yearling. It's about a year old now. As you can see, the horns haven't developed that fully yet. When the horns start to pinch together and almost touch in the middle, that's about 2 years old. Then they start to curve out, so we'd say that's about 3. And then from 4 years onwards, their horns look big and wide, and the specific term is a lyrate when they look like this. This is an instrument called a lyre, which I think is somewhat that shape. And giraffe just feeding there at the edge of the waterhole. It's nice and cool. It's really great weather for animals. They can be out in the open, they can move around. They're not using up too much energy, they're not overheating. This giraffe is coming to the water's edge. It might actually drink again. When you eat grass, and well, giraffes don't eat grass, but when you eat leaves all day long, there's a lot of fiber there, so you need a lot of water in order to help that digest. Look, it looks like it's going to drink. Should be quite nice, a very cool angle. Beach bunny, I have never witnessed that before. I've never seen a giraffe go into water to cool off. I've seen them go into the shade, I've seen them drink water, but I've never seen them go into the water. I mean, I think a giraffe would be too nervous, because if it slips over in the water, it could be very difficult to get up again. I don't know. Have any of the other guides seen them? Have any of the other presenters seen a giraffe go into the water to cool off? That would be a question to field to all of them. Or have any of you viewers at home, have you seen a giraffe go into water to cool off? Don't think so, but I could be wrong. I have never seen everything. Oh, the two giraffe have gotten a big fright and are running towards the other one, where they'll now settle as they realize that they are running away from shadows. The goose was there a moment ago, or maybe it was oh no, I think I saw the Hadidar ibis fly off. Come on, you can do it. Just a little stretch. A little stretch. When you see it's putting its legs wider, that's when you know it's probably going to go, but it's very slippery there. Oh look, its foot, there you go. The giraffe is in the water, cooling off. Even if it was just a toe. Just the edge of the hoof. A lot of animals do go into the water. We see the buffalo, the elephants doing it a lot. Rhinos definitely do it. Hyenas do that frequently. I've even seen African wild dogs doing it. And warthogs, but not giraffe.
The puppies have been playing, but now they've settled down a little bit on the road. And I have some adults next to me. So there are 6 adults that I can see. And 7 pups. All nicely spread out. Everyone's relaxing. Look at that. love those sounds, the sounds that animals make as they pass bushes. Sit down.
Trish coming for yours.
Standing by yours.
Trish, is there some space available?
AFM, you're welcome to join. Aubrey's also going to join as soon as you guys are close. I'll move off. Because this is, like I said, a busy sighting. Always is when it comes to wild dogs. So we might just spend a little bit more time with them as long as we can. What I was saying to you was the sound of animals as they move through the bush. They sit down or they brush against something. I don't know why. I love those sounds. The sounds that you learn to associate with a certain size of animal, a certain height of animal. And it's quite an interesting thing the way your brain puts together all of that information. All right, so other vehicles are going to come in to join the sighting, so hopefully we'll get a little bit more time. I'm going to stick around as long as I can.
Yes, from wild dogs to another marvel of nature. Look at this beautiful. Look at this. Look at this. From wild dogs to another marvel of nature. Look at this beautiful malachite kingfisher, a bird found from sea level to almost 3,000 meters. They're found in pairs. Oops, just did a dump. Found in pairs and sometimes solitary. I believe they are very territorial because they stick around their home range for a very long time. It's a fisher bird, hence its name, kingfisher. They have amazing eyesight, but hunt in very shallow waters and always hangs very low in branch. They're ready to dive down and grab its fish or frog. They nest on banks of rivers, burrowing, a hole almost 60 centimeters deep, and then they dig it upwards, where they line it with fish bones, regurgitated fish bones, and some feathers, and that's where they nest. And over here you can tell from the rains, we have plenty of water. So there must be lots of fish that were suffocating from shallow waters. Now they're spread out. And that's why he's right here. So beautiful. Yeah, malachite kingfisher. Typical of their behavior, they bob their head, raising it up and then lowering it quickly. Never seen two together. Oh, seems to have a bad tummy or something. I've always seen one, and that's a fully grown. Sometimes difficult to differentiate between male and females. Adults have got that white on the chin, and also behind the ear there they have another white spot. That's how you identify it's an adult. What else do we have? We have a cisticola. Chichiri, chichiri. Sounds like another rattling cisticola. It's a songbird. Cisticola in Latin means grass dweller. So they're always found in places with plenty of grass. They feed on seeds and also small insects. There are so many in this group of cisticolas. Leopard lover. Jumbo, thank you for your question. Do birds ever land on my car? Yes. We've had a case where we were in the middle of a herd of buffalo, and the oxpeckers I think mistook our car for a large buffalo, and they came and landed on top. They were quite noisy because it is PVC. Because of rain, they couldn't hold on to anything, and so they were sliding, and it was very noisy. Went like, yes, leopard lover, they do land. It's rare, but they do. Look at this beauty, malachite kingfisher. That beak is to fish, is for fishing, grabbing a fish or a frog. Then they fly back to the same patch, or sometimes a thicker patch, where they thrash and hit, bang the fish using the twig or the little shrub that they have patched on. They would kill it by hitting it there and then eventually swallowing it whole. Sometimes they take it back, if it's a good size, to the chicks. I don't know if we're going to experience that, but maybe he's already eaten too much. It's very late, and birds are usually very early, so he must have eaten quite enough. So now it's just resting. Yeah. Listen to the sound of frogs, how happy, how excited they are. Yeah, very, 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 very happy frogs. And now I think we're gonna see a lot of farm nest frogs breeding quite soon, because conditions are very, very perfect for them. The water, there is plenty of water, plenty of bushes inside water. This is from about 3 days of rain, and soon we might lose our track. The water will come above and we might not be able to drive in this area. Yeah, so beautiful. Well, it's so beautiful here, but I'm gonna keep going, see what else I can find further up.
All right, guys, so we've left the Pride, the Southern Pride, with the cubs on that zebra kill. They're looking rather lazy, as you can imagine, full bellies. And actually came to this waterhole to see if we can't pick up on the vocalizations that we heard earlier this morning. However, didn't pick up on any tracks or any other lions or something like that. But, we're like little boys with new toys every time we drive past a waterhole and see how full it is after the proper rain that we've had. As you can imagine, water in the Kalahari or rain in the Kalahari is not something that we come by often. So as soon as we get rains like we have the past 3 days and the waterholes fill up and you see the bush reacting, you can just see those fields of green starting to pop out. It's just heartwarming to see something like that. And, you can hear all the birds calling and everyone's just happy. It's just a stunning morning. I see a little woodpecker flying in the distance as well. They're going to be, all of the insect-eating birds are going to be very, very happy. Well, birds in general, lots of seed production on its way, lots of insect activity starting to happen, all of those types of things. So just a beautiful, beautiful day to be out in the bush. Stunning morning. But yeah, what we are going to do is to maybe continue working this area, just see what is going to happen. Maybe we pick up on those lion tracks that was vocalizing. Otherwise, we'll head back to the Pride and see what they're up to. So yeah, if we do find anything, we'll let you guys know. Hopefully we do. It would be great.
Here, these guys are just chilling out. I've concluded that I'm not familiar with this pack. Having seen the amount of pups, I thought perhaps it was a Pungwe pack, but don't see the adults that I'd be looking for with them. So maybe it's a pack I don't know, or one of the breakaways, or combination of pack, or something like that. And in fact, if you know, please let me know. But otherwise, I don't recognize any individuals. Whoever they are, I'm very glad that they have settled down so nicely. So those 3 adults that we saw earlier are actually still there, which brings our total of adults to 7 or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to 8. There we go. Look, I can count everyone. Trying to figure out if I'm missing one behind. No. It's a nice big pack. Packs can obviously get much larger than this. Sometimes even 30 dogs or so. I'm surprised or amazed at the way word has gotten out about dogs being around here, and how there's just not a herbivore in sight around the dam or the clearings to the west of the dam. That's just amazing. That tells you the strong senses of a herbivore to pick it up, and the presence of these predators.
Welcome back, everyone, to Ambient Pinda. And since you were last with us, the cheetah mother has decided to get up and move. Something seemed to have disturbed them where we were sitting with them, where they were resting. And she's walked quite a distance. I'd say we've been following them now. She's walked close to around 1 kilometer already. And she seems to be heading towards some water. And the cubs are reluctantly following. Every time there's a little bit of shade, the cubs try to stop and rest. But Mom has other ideas. Just looking at Mom's body language right now, it seems like she might have spotted something. And the cubs have seen that Mom's body language has changed. Yeah, I think she has seen something. Oh, she's definitely seen something. You see how her body is almost poised, ready to go. We've just looped up ahead around to the front of the cheetah, so we haven't actually had a chance to look at where she's heading. The 2 cubs have picked up on Mom's change in her body language, and they've actually both sat down. Well, one has sat down, and the other one has joined. Maybe they've seen what Mom's seen. At the moment where she's looking, we've got a bush between us and there. Mom just assessing the situation now. She sat down and she's just watching, looking all around. On their way here, we could hear down in the valley in front of them some monkeys alarm calling. And the mother cheetah also heard them, and she was watching to see if she could see what they were alarm calling at. And we sort of assumed that they were alarm calling at her because they were kind of looking up in our direction, shouting towards us. So I think the monkeys were alarm calling at her, but they have since stopped, so maybe they've moved off. I'm just looking with binoculars. I'm trying to see if I can see past these bushes or through the bushes any movement, but it is an area where we do see inyala and impalas. But it almost seems as though she's given up, or she's waiting for the whatever she's seen to move into an area where she's got a better chance of getting closer. Okay, so I think for now that she's stopped and she's just sitting and watching, we're going to sit with her for a little bit longer and just see what happens here.
Welcome to And Beyond Ngala. We have found a beautiful herd of elephants crossing the riverbed in the Timbavati riverbed, and the little calves are having such a good time playing in the sand this morning. It's incredible. We've got all of the little ones together, quite close to the front of the herd, and I think they're really enjoying the cool weather. They've had a bit of a play this morning. They look like they have quite a bit of energy. That female has quite large tusks, actually. So she's just letting us know that she knows that we're here. They definitely have quite a bit of energy this morning. You can see all the little ones still trying to play there. They've been climbing all over each other. So this section of the river is incredibly, it's just beautiful actually. There's so many big trees on the sides. Nice and lush. So I think that might be where the elephants are going, looking for some food from these big trees. It's actually so lovely to see a herd with so many youngsters. You can see those two on the left are pushing each other. Definitely lots of energy this morning in the overcast weather. They're still pushing each other. Seem to have a straggler at the back of the herd. almost thinking before she moves on. She looks like quite an old cow. Doesn't have very big tusks, but she's quite beautiful. Having a bit of a scratch. So it's always blown my mind how, obviously in the riverbed we can see the elephants really, really easily, but as soon as they go up onto the bank, into those thickets, they become so hard to see, and you would think being so big that you'd see them really, really easily. But they really do tend to blend in quite well. We've got one proper straggler coming. So we're going to wait for this last elephant to cross over the river in front of us. Looks like a young male that's been left behind and he's trying to find the herd.
So just like Tessa's elephants at Ngala, ours have also disappeared into some thickets next to the waterhole. But this little blacksmith lapwing is very interesting to watch as it stalks along the edge of this water, searching out any small insects that are moving around at the water's edge, and then quickly snapping them up, just like that. Quick burst of speed, flapping the wings, pushing its head and beak forward quickly to snap up whatever bugs there are. There must be a nest also nearby, because this lapwing and its partner are always around this waterhole. They're always very closely associated to waterholes. And the name blacksmith comes from the black apron that's on the front of this bird, as well as the sound that it makes, which sounds like a hammer beating an anvil. Okay, I've got a bit of audio issues. Let's see if I can sort something out here. Hopefully that is a little bit better. Just as I was saying, so the blacksmith lapwing gets its name from the black apron and the sound that it makes, which is just like a small tiny hammer hitting an anvil. So now look, as it walks, sometimes it'll even use its feet to push into the mud and disturb any small insects that there might be. You see how it walks quickly and then stops? Maybe when its eyes catch a bit of movement. I see a bug moving to the left of it. No, it missed. So I guess... Oh, I see something moving at the water's edge, but it doesn't seem to spot it. Oh, it's found a little clump of something. Look at that. Oh, a feast. You can literally see it snapping up the little insects. Oh, there flies off the last of them. Oh, no, a few more. I wonder if something had laid eggs there and those eggs were hatching. It's unusual for them to find so many insects in one little clump there. And just washing its bill in the water, because, it sometimes gets really gummed up with all the mud as it quickly snaps around. And there you go, a little clean off with a bit of water. Now ready to go again. Very, very long legs. These birds are technically known as waders, so they will also walk in the shallows, disturbing little things in the water. Move my head out the way. Wonderful to watch. Let's see what else it gets up to.
This marula that the dogs are very soundly, so one dog at least is very soundly asleep under, is starting to fruit. So I can't wait to start picking up marulas and snacking along as we go and game drive together. Unfortunately, I won't be able to share with you. Everyone is taking a nap. It's lovely and calm and peaceful. Every single dog is down. If the weather stays like this, then they may move around. But if it gets hot, then they're very likely to stay here. And that would be great. Because then this afternoon, they might be up and about with a bit more action. Well, things are very, very quiet now. And they have all gone to sleep. So we'll move on to
Well, very much like they've gone to sleep with Trishala, my hyena here is having a rest. Hello, Heini. Did I wake you up? Yes, looks like maybe he had a very, very long night and a wet one, looking for something. Spotted hyena it is, and this is from the Olololo clan. We have been trying to look specifically spot, locate their den. We've been given permission to try and find it, but so I've been coming where I've been seeing the clan members. We know of one burrow, but there was only one member there. This is another one, so it could be near here. I'm hoping to very soon spot all of them together. Olololo clan are over 30 strong, and a clan is made up of a matriarch who is the dominant female in hyenas, very much like in wild dogs and elephants. Females are the leaders. They're called matriarchs, and they're full of testosterone, are very aggressive and very dominant. Everybody fears them. Very nocturnal, spotted hyena, active at night, and during the day they rest. Jay, in fact, no. Hyenas are actually more closely related to cats more than dogs. In the subfamily, they actually are almost second after, lions. They are second, they are subfamily, and then third there is, cheetahs, and then dogs are totally separate. In fact, they say it's half dog, half cat. And for many similarities, you can argue that, because cats have got 4 mammary glands and hyenas have got 4 mammary glands. They are territorial, cats and hyenas are territorial. They give birth to a maximum of 4, hyenas give birth to 2. While dogs, give birth to up to 6. So it's a very big difference. Yes, that is another find. While we're seated here looking at the hyena, we have the southern grand hornbill. This is a very rare bird to see, and he's moving around foraging. They feed on small reptiles, insects. That beak is very lethal. They do fly, mind you, in case they are threatened. They will fly. They nest on hollow trees. Unlike other hornbills, they don't like build themselves in using mud. And also, it looks like he got something. In their neck, they have an extra vertebrae, making their necks slightly longer than other hornbills. They also surprisingly live a very long time, almost 40 plus years. And previous offsprings always come back to try and help parenting the new offsprings, spending a lot of their time on the ground. It's like a giant turkey. Its call goes like boo boo, boo boo, boo. Mhm, 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 mhm. Yeah, looks like. And we associate the call with rain, locally, where I come from. Melinda, yes, they do. Birds see in color, and brighter colors sometimes attract mates. So that is the one reason I would say it does help one another. They have a reason, and some of them shade their plumage annually and get these bright colors, and that exciting other members so that they can come into season. So they do play a very big role in birds. Back to our hyena. It looks like he's very well rested. Usually in a clan, they always leave one behind to take care of the young cubs. So this could be the babysitter, but I don't know where the burrow around here is. Sometimes when you stay a little bit longer, you see a dark, little bear-looking like animal come out, because they are very black at a very young age, hyenas. This is an animal that for a very long time was mistaken to be a hermaphrodite, meaning they have both male and female genitalia, but females have got an elongated clitoria that resembles a male's private organ. So mating is quite an elaborate affair, and the females has to be able to agree, because she has to retract it and expose her vulva for mating to take place. Giving birth is very painful because the clitoria erupts so that the young ones can get out. So it is very painful for the females. And they give birth to a maximum of 2 who are born blind, but one of the few animals that are born with teeth to try and kill one another immediately, because if cubs are born of the same gender, they'll try and kill one another so that they can become the future matriarchs, especially if they're females. So those teeth are to kill one another. Well, I'll leave this guy to continue sunning himself. And while I do that, let's take you to another live location.
Hyenas are very important in this ecosystem. If you're not for them and the vultures, then I don't know how we'll be living. Now back here we have a Nile crocodile, slightly just submerged into the water there. He saw some movement, and that's the reason why he just went back into the water. Before that, he was standing on the bank. They also have a very good eyesight. And sometimes when they see any movement just across on the bank, they crawl into the water and swim where they'll be in a position to see if whatever has gone into the water will be a potential prey. I can see the water level is increasing, so it's a little bit torrent, And when we normally see some hippos, they've actually been pulled out, actually, because it's become too strong. The current is too strong for them, and they have little calves, so they've moved off to a favorable area where at least they can shelter from the strong current. He's beginning to swim again. That tells you that he's seen something, and you can see the strong currents actually trying to push him back. He's holding on because the current is a little bit strong. I like the way he's camouflaged in this murky water. Let's see what he's up to as I take you over to another live location.
Welcome back to Ambient Pinde, everyone. And we've just found this lioness. We saw her earlier on and we thought we'd come back past this area, see if anything's changed. And she's actually just managed to catch a wildebeest. If you look in between her legs, there's a dark shape there. That's a wildebeest. And you'll also see close to the lioness's head there's one cub. And then if you look through her legs past that dark shape, which is the wildebeest, you'll see the other cub is actually starting to feed on the backside of the wildebeest. And what's crazy is that this lioness is literally, she's 5 meters maybe. Oh look, she's trying to drag the wildebeest. Look at the power, look at the muscles on her side. You see how she's panting? So this has literally just happened. She's trying to catch her breath after suffocating that wildebeest. But she wants to move the kill more into the shade. And there the cub is jumping around. And so I was saying, what's insane is that she's about 5 meters from where we saw her earlier this morning, where she was lying in the shade. And so this wildebeest, I'm sure, must have just stumbled across here and she took the opportunity. Look how she's pulling it. She's pulling it up and the cub is trying to eat on the move. That is pure power, hey? Look at that. She's pulling it up and over those rocks and into some really secure shade. So the sun is beating down at the moment. And there's also 5 rhinos that have just arrived on the scene. And they're heading to a little watering hole there, watering hole and mud wallow. This is just amazing. I can't believe how close she is still to where she was. She's about, maybe between 5 and 10 meters from where we saw her earlier. So the poor wildebeest, I think, just wandered across her path or across where she was lying. And she just got up and pounced on him. See the cub, how excited it is. It's jumping around and playing. Yeah, I agree. It's an incredible scene to have a lioness with her two cubs that's just recently caught a wildebeest, and then 5 rhinos just arrive in the background. Yeah. Yeah, that lioness is trying to move the wildebeest further into the shade. But there's some rocks there, and it seems like the wildebeest is getting wedged against the rocks, or in between the rocks. But remember, that's about 300 kilograms that she's trying to pull there. And she's trying to pull it up and over the rocks. We actually had no idea earlier that the 2 little cubs were here. I think Mom's had left them here, sort of where those rocks are. There's lots of little hiding places. Not quite a den, but almost like a temporary den for the cubs to feel quite safe. And she could leave them, so she was, I'm sure, out hunting last night. And we saw her just arriving back and then settling down in the shade. Still no sign of the cubs. And only now have we seen the cubs. So Noodles is asking what is the average weight of the wildebeest. So yeah, I think this wildebeest probably around about 300 kilograms, but they range from about 250 up to 300 kilograms. Which is quite a big animal, and to think that the lioness is only around about 160, 170 kilograms. So she's punching well above her weight. Bringing down that wildebeest is quite a feat already, and she's trying to drag it up and over those rocks and into the shade. All the rhinos are having like an argy-bargy in the back there. You can't hear it. I'm not sure if you can hear it, but those rhinos are now grunting and all wanting to get to the same water, but it's quite a small watering hole. So, yeah, it is starting to get really, really hot here, and unfortunately we're not going to be able to get another view of the lioness. But for now, yeah, I think Craig and I will just sit around and see if anything changes here.
So welcome back to the Mara River, where we have another big crocodile basking there in the sun. So crocodiles have a body temperature of about 30 to 33 degrees Celsius. And to achieve such temperatures, they have to come out to bask. So depending on how warm or how cold it is, crocodile will be moving back and forth. You can see it's actually turning or facing towards the sun direction to warm up. And that has also an advantage because the rest of the body gets to warm up. So the reason why it's opening its mouth is to allow the brain to cool through a process what we call evaporative cooling. Sometimes the crocodiles can be seen doing that at night, not only during the day. That is what we call the mouth gaping posture. However, it's a display that sometimes can also be seen even during the rain, the sun, and also at night. So sometimes when they're doing this, they're also closing their eyes, but they can feel the vibration of moving animals that might come close to the river. Well, first, thank you for your question. How much the crocodile eats when the migration is not happening is very little. So they're able to reduce their metabolic rate to very low, such that sometimes they can even go for about months without feeding. Although they're known to even go for longer, even up to a year without feeding. So during the migration time, that is when the metabolic rate will come up high, eating lots of meat. So the reason being is that more often at times you find that there is no prey, there's no food, only some little fish that they get to survive on. So by lowering their metabolic rate is also very important for their survival. So to come back to your question is that they eat so little during the off-peak of the migration. Big territorial males like this will tend to have an ideal place where they'll go and bask. Although they're not as aggressive towards one another, they'll always share a basking place like this. But males like this big one will have that preferred place where they'll often go there. Such a giant crocodile, so I'm just going to leave him there to carry on and bask as I take you over to another live location.
Okay guys, so we went to have a look we could see where those vocalizations from earlier came from, but unfortunately nothing. So came back to this spot where our day started. And it's just stunning to see how well these little cubs are doing and how they're operating and how confident they are already around the other lions, So just a beautiful, beautiful setting. As you can see, they are constantly looking up and looking back to the adults now, looking back to where they made that, I want to say, initial kill. I do think they've made the other kill first and then made this one where we are based at right now. But always just very wary of maybe a male lion approaching, or just checking on the jackals that they don't sneak up too close or anything like that. But as you can see, quite lazy. Full bellies. It's getting warm now. They don't have anything to worry about. They've got a zebra right over here and another one, probably about 50% of the kill still left, not too far away. So there's absolutely nothing to worry about. They can kick back and relax. That little guy is still busy chowing, but I think that's just more like dessert at the moment. Don't even know if he's swallowing. I think it's just the taste that he's after. As you can see, quite curious, the little ones. They always want to do what the others are doing. This was a special morning. Still is. And I love the little sounds that the little ones make. You know, constantly talking. It's very soft, but just these little, almost like a moaning sound they constantly make, just to, you know, ask for permission from the older cub, or when they're looking for their mom, or when they're looking for each other even. They were so cute. Just as we got here, there was one of the little ones busy drinking from its mother, and he got so lazy that he actually fell asleep while drinking. So cute. As you can see, those little ones, the small ones now, already have the know-how to use that carnassial shear, you know, those molars at the back of their mouth that's shaped like knives, to cut off the meat and then chow down on whatever they get to bite off. But yeah, guys, unfortunately, it is that time of the morning where we are going to say goodbye to these lions and let them relax a little bit. We might come back here this afternoon just to see what's going on. I'm pretty sure we will. There was reports of 2 male cheetahs not too far away from here as well, so we might start the afternoon with them and then come over to these guys to see when it cools down, if these cubs don't want to play or something like that. But thank you very much for joining us on this live drive. We hope to see you all back here this afternoon on channel 183 on DSTV. Also, you can follow us on YouTube or Twitter, and remember to send us all of your questions using the hashtag WildEarth, or just wildearth.tv if you want to send it to our website. But then we are going to say goodbye for now and see you all this afternoon. Okay, guys. Bye-bye.